Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's CPWR and OSHA webinar. Get ready for the 2025 Safety Stand Down to Prevent Falls in Construction. My name is Rosa Greenberg, and I am a research analyst with the Research to Practice program here at CPWR, the Center for Construction Research and Training. I am also our point person for the National Falls Campaign and for the Safety Stand Down. I'll be moderating today's webinar while we hear from CPWR's Executive Director, Chris Cain, and OSHA's Director of the Office of Construction Services, Brian Rizzo. I would like to thank our campaign leadership for being here today. And Brian, I will hand it over to you to tell us more about the 2025 stand down.
Yeah, thank you, Rosa, and Chris and the CPWR team for getting this all together. This is always a fantastic event, and it takes a lot to get this together, and we certainly appreciate it. I'm gonna share my screen now. Yeah, and we'll get started here. Yeah, so I'm Brian Rizzo. I'm the director for the Office of Construction Services and the director at Construction here at OSHA. Just as we kind of get started with the presentation today, what we're putting together here is really guidance, and we're not creating any new rules or anything. So it'll be here and meant to help you out. And if you have questions, please let us know. So we'll start out with OSHA's mission, and it's to assure America's workers have safe and healthful working conditions, free from unlawful retaliation. And in doing that, we set and enforce standards. We enforce anti-retaliation provisions of the OSHA Act and other federal whistleblower laws. We provide training, outreach, education, and assistance. We're not just an enforcement agency, and a lot of what we do that has a lot of impact is this outreach and the things like we're doing today. And we also work collaboratively with our state OSHA programs. Now, in that space, there are many directorates at OSHA, and the Directorate of Construction specifically serves as OSHA's principal source for standards, regulation, policy, programs in assistance to OSHA and other federal agencies, specific to construction industry stakeholders and with respect to safety and health. So our structure here, the Directorate is made up of the Office of the Director, the Office of Engineering Services. And the Office of Engineering Services is really the group that does a lot of the forensic engineering and goes out on sites when we have the worst case scenario where we're talking bridge collapses or whole building collapses. We do have a dedicated team of engineers working there. We also have the Office of Standards and Guidance that does the rulemaking for construction. And then the office that I'm a part of, the Office of Construction Services, which deals specifically with the enforcement and outreach type activity that the Directorate of Construction engages in. And I got to tell you, I'm happy to be here to kick off the 2025 National Stand Down to Prevent Falls in Construction with our partners at the CPWR. And looking forward to the events that are coming later this week and all of next week. Part of the reason I'm so excited about it is because this type of work hits really close to home for me. A lot of folks that don't know me or we haven't run into each other necessarily may not know that I was a carpenter and a metal worker by trade. And as I kind of came up into my career before coming into safety, I didn't necessarily realize all the types of hazards I was exposed to, especially with regard to falls, and frankly, didn't even have the respect for the hazard that it demands. And doing that work without training and looking back, it's really easy to identify just how completely unacceptable it was for myself and for others that I was working with, and not being able to speak up and identify those hazards. So I'd consider myself incredibly accidentally successful being here. But again, I'm also excited to be able to talk about it and then think about the technology and engagement that has evolved since the time that I was in the field doing that kind of work. There's lots of opportunity for employers and employees to kind of engage in identifying these hazards, looking at training, implementing new technologies, and preventing harm by preventing falls. And I'm really grateful to be here to be able to share that with you. So as we kind of kick this off, it's, one of the best parts to kind of brag about here is we've been doing this focused engagement since 2012, when NIOSH and the NOAA Construction Sector Council, in partnership with us and the CPWR, sort of stood up the fall prevention campaign. And the national stand down is one part of that campaign that's been ongoing since 2014. And, we're happy to see that we're reaching countless workers and countless work sites, and they're ever changing and evolving. We're getting new people into the industry all the time. Folks that have been in the industry for a while are becoming supervisors, mentors, and leaders. And there's a lot of information to be passed down to prevent harm while doing this type of work. And all of it's really, when we think about it, it's aimed at ensuring a positive quality of life for the American workforce, because nobody deserves to experience life-altering injuries, or in the worst case, death. And while many great stand-downs and trainings and other events have taken place, we still have a lot of work to do to get the message out and keep preventable fall-related injuries and deaths from occurring. Yesterday was Worker Memorial Day, where the lives of lost workers were remembered. Many of those workers experienced fall-related deaths. Those are preventable and things that we would like to see trend downward. The BLS data continue to show that falls are still the leading indicator, or the leading cause of death in construction. And the recent headlines make it all too clear that we need to continue to stay vigilant and ready, and plan and provide and train to prevent these falls from occurring. And those are the 3 steps that our fall prevention campaign provides to help do that. We plan the work, provide the proper equipment to employees, and train workers to recognize hazards and set up and use the equipment that they're issued safely. So with that plan, provide, and train concept in your mind, when we look at these headlines, like worker dies in construction site fall, this is in April. This worker fell 20 feet doing residential work from a scaffold. Another one with a worker who died after from a fall from a 19th floor, wasn't wearing a helmet or a harness. This is in March. Construction worker injured after falling 20 feet in Duluth, another one in March. And while the focus of this conversation revolves on construction, other industries face the same risks. Our maritime industries and our general industries, and the headlines speak to that as well, with one person killed after falling off of a ladder into an auger at an Oklahoma chicken plant. This is in 2020 or March of 2025 as well. Fall prevention requires a cooperative and layered approach, and OSHA does this through enforcement, outreach, and training. So I'd like to take a look and kind of pause on this slide for a second as you kind of take, because there's a lot here, and take in this OSHA inspection data, and this is for this fiscal year through the end of last month. I've bolded a couple of things that stand out to me. And here, the first thing we're looking at is the 1926 500 or 501, 503, and 502 are specifically related to the fall standards in construction. 4,500 issuance, or approximately 4,500 issuances for fall protection, have already occurred this fiscal year. Our enforcement staff in the field is targeting sites through our National Emphasis Program to help employers, or help keep employees safe by addressing the hazards as we see them. I think the other thing to pause on here is when you look across the line, 77 willful violations of the 1926 501 fall protection. Willful violations are of the worst type, where we have supervisors or management of a company knowingly and with indifference putting workers' lives at risk to get a job done at height. And typically those willful violations are associated with some kind of disabling injury or death. And what's more is even in that same row to the right, you'll see repeat violations. And this is for companies that have been inspected and continue to sort of make the same mistakes or violate the same standard. And we'll continue our enforcement activity there. And again, with 4,500 issuances taking up 3 of the top 10, it's very easy to add in the next a few more that are also related to working from heights, where we have ladders in the top 10, scaffolds in the top 10, and working from aerial lifts. This can all be prevented if we work to plan, provide, and train our work from heights. But it's not just the enforcement that we'll continue to work on. We're going to continue to do this type of outreach too. And next week, from May 5th to 9th, is the National Safety Stand Down to prevent falls in construction. And this outreach in cooperation with industry is a critical layer of preventing falls across the board. It's not just enforcement. This stand down next week will exemplify the involvement between OSHA, its partners like the CPWR and our alliances, employers and employees, not to mention many other interested folks. This is really a time and an opportunity to focus on fall hazards specifically. Focus on your programs, celebrate preventative measures that you have in place that are successful. And when you consider that and you're doing this type of work, especially in construction, it's worth celebrating the positive aspects that are happening, because these fall exposures are everywhere and you're exposed to them frequently. Making sure that we take the time to identify what you're doing right is critical, and then you can use that information to continuously improve your programs and hold on to those things that are working. This prevention is possible, and we want you involved to stop these falls in construction. So as we kind of go through that and we talk about what is a stand down, and does the stand down that I'm going to do, does it need to last a whole week? The answer to that's kind of no. There's no one size fits all for the stand down. But what it really is it's something that can be integrated into your business processes. You could think about it as something that you might work into your two-week look aheads or your daily briefs. But what we specifically want you to do is focus on fall hazards in construction, start a conversation so that employees can raise concerns to help you identify the risks and prevent and add controls to prevent people from being exposed and injuring themselves or having others injured on your job site. And the idea here is we want you to participate. We also don't want you to be overwhelmed. There's a lot of information. Chris is going to share some in a little bit with the CPWR's resources that are available. OSHA's here to help. We have OSHA stand down at dol.gov that can help answer your questions. And you'll also find lots of information on osha.gov/stop falls stand down or osha.gov/construction, where when you get into that site, you'll be able to find all kinds of things over the past years that other employers have provided. They provide talking points, toolbox talks, methods, and options so that you're not building a stand down essentially from scratch. And again, don't get overwhelmed. The fall protection can be a really big topic. Try to focus specifically what the risk to your workforce is. Consider doing more than one type of stand down integrated into your other operations, like I mentioned earlier. And maybe it's ladders today, scaffold access tomorrow, working near leading edge or open platforms where materials are coming through on upper decks. Keep the conversations going, and integrating those small chunks will make it a lot easier, and it'll keep the conversations from being overwhelming. So it really is a pride point for us in the time that we've been working on this, because we know the message is getting out, and it's the collaboration with industry to get these fall stand downs completed, and your participation through our website has been outstanding. And we're happy to report that they're happening in more than just the construction industry, but across all 50 states and internationally. And participants include commercial and residential construction, the DoD, companies of all sizes, small and large, unions, trade associations, institutes and other insurance companies, employee interest organizations. And we're happy to promote public events that are free and available for everyone to attend, kind of like this one, and we have one coming up on Thursday on leading edges. That's will be a national. It'll be available everywhere online. There's also an opportunity that I think Chris will touch on, that has to do with becoming a premier partner. It's something we kicked off last year, and where certain companies or organizations want to go the extra mile and help promote more resources or provide something to us for review and sharing on our website. We do that, and we'd love to see more premier partners as it comes through in the future. So who can join? This campaign and the stand down next week is for everyone. We'd like you to get on, do your stand down, register with our website, and get your certificate of participation. Our website is currently being updated, and I'll show you how to do that here in a few minutes. But it's the sharing of these events that are free and open to the public, and the sharing of resources to make sure that people have what they need, employees are trained to protect themselves and others, that's really going to make the biggest difference. And again, remember that our website, you're not in this alone, and our website has plenty of resources that you can use to promote the standout activities that you're engaging in and learn from others. So as we go forward here, to start, this is kind of generally what the certificate will look like for your participation. And it doesn't just have to be at the corporate level. This can trickle down to individual work sites, in other work groups and spaces where you've participated. And when you go to OSHA's website, this is a snippet from today. And you'll see that our headline banner, you can click Learn More right on the top to get directly to the site. If that banner doesn't happen to show up for you, and or it's another time of year, and you end up you want to participate but you weren't quite ready, and you kind of come around to it a little later, you can always access this information by clicking Topics on our blue banner and going down to Construction. And this is going to bring you to osha.gov/construction, where all of the construction resources from OSHA are linked out. And you'll find information about regulatory work, guidance such as letters of interpretation, directives, other publications. What's important to highlight here is our outreach efforts. And this will show you where the fall prevention campaign is and the national stand down. We've also got a QR code on this page. So if you have an internet connected mobile device, you'll be able to scan that QR code right now and get to that page. Now, once you click the National Safety Stand Down link, you'll be brought here. And a lot of the information that you may have questions about, or if you want to find the resources, you'll see them in the gray banner in the middle of the screen under the tab Resources. I mentioned there are events that are free and open to the public. If you have one, you can click on that tab and upload your event to share that with the rest of the nation and other people who might be interested. If there's other things specifically that you're doing that you'd like to share with us, or as you become a Premier Partner and you put out a short video or a toolbox talk or something like that, anything that would be useful for industry that addresses these risks to falls, you'd be able to do it there. And you can click on highlights to see some things that were done in the past. Now, this website is still being updated, and soon there will be a tab that says certificate that you'll be able to click on so that you can take credit for the work that you're doing during the fall stand down. And again, even if it's not next week, if you get to it close by or you choose to take that effort, go on to this page and click the certificate and claim that work. Register with us so we can see what you're doing and help promote that. So with that, that sort of concludes my section for OSHA, and I'll turn it over to Chris Cain. And if you want to stay up to date for new resources for workplaces generally, and just even outside of construction, you should consider subscribing to our quick takes in Spanish or information rápida, and you can do that through the QR code on the left. You can follow us on X or on LinkedIn. With that, thank you again for being here. We appreciate your participation. I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
Thank you very much, Brian. And just so you know, Brian's not going away. He's going to be here for question and answers. But first, I'm going to share some information from CPWR and about the campaign. Huge thanks to Rosa, who has rightfully claimed her title of coordinating all of this in partnership with Jess for us at CPWR. But I wanted just to take a pause here on this first slide for a minute and acknowledge NORA, which is the National Occupational Research Agenda. We have received incredible guidance from the NORA Construction Sector Council Work Group on Falls for this campaign throughout the years, including in the designing of the campaign around 2010 when we started talking about it. So wanted to flag that. And of course, NIOSH, who supports CPWR through our cooperative agreement under which we carry out these activities. So just wanted to mention that every year, it's usually the head of construction for NIOSH who's on the line with us. This year, he's been let go, as well as most of the staff at NIOSH. So Scott Ernest is not here, but hopefully we'll see him again soon. With that, we have set up and operate the Stop Construction Falls website for a good number of years. And as such, we thought it was time to refresh it in 2024. So last year, we undertook a redesign to make it easier to use and just bring it up to date. We pulled together a committee of users of the website who have gone to it looking for information to help us give us some input on its redesign. And now this website is completely redesigned from where it was in 2023. This is where we house just about everything related to the year-round campaign, as well as the stand down that we do each spring. And our website has tons of resources really divided into different sections based on the type of resource. One of the types is training resources. A lot of different informations. If you want to try a fresh toolbox talk, go there, download any of ours and use them. We also have infographics, tip sheets, worker handouts. We have videos. We have links to old webinars. We have podcasts, and also there's some mobile apps on there, like the Ladder app that NIOSH did. So all of these resources can be used as part of training and part of a stand down activity. We encourage you to take a look at those and maybe switch up your activities for that. Another section of our website. Oops, sorry about that. I clicked on an active link in in the slides and took us to that webpage. Just so you know, those links really do work, and Jess has posted a link to these slides in the chat. So going on to the next section is on planning resources in our website. We have samples of and examples and fill in the blank type written fall prevention plans, as well as resources for year-round prevention. We focused on planning in the stand down a couple of years ago because we thought that obviously plan, provide, train is the slogan of the campaign, but thinking about the smallest employers who may not have a safety and health professional or a lot of resources to devote to prevention of falls, thinking about how to give them the tools to create a quick and accurate written fall prevention plan was something we thought would help. So this is all up here and for free on stopconstructionfalls.com. We have a section for research. We both create and pull together research from other sources. Our data center at CPWR puts out a bunch of different reports and has always focused on falls in support of the campaign and in support of the leading cause of death from traumatic injury for construction workers. We also have a lot of other sources that we've pulled on. The NIOSH Fatality Assessment and Control Evaluation Program. If you haven't looked at it, go look at the website before it's removed. They have FACE reports. These investigation reports are really detailed rich, as well as full of great recommendations on how to prevent repeat fatalities. And that's part of the things that we rely on to really look and see how to scrub the research to look for ways to prevent falls. So I did it again. Of course, we want to have and create and make everything we have available in Spanish. So on stopconstructionfalls.com, we have as many of our own CPWR resources translated into Spanish, but also resources from others. There are links to our Spanish YouTube channel where people who speak Spanish can go and look, for example, potentially listen to a copy of this presentation or other webinars, but also training programs in Spanish. Again, resources we provide for free to the construction industry. We are also looking to always add other languages when it's requested. So on stopconstructionfalls.com, we have some of our infographics in 7 languages right now: Arabic, Haitian Creole, Japanese, Portuguese, Russian, Polish, and traditional Chinese. So check those out. A new resource we have up there is on PPE Fit. We had a request from one of the unions to get something simple out on what we know about the fit of personal protective equipment and how important that is. Also in response to OSHA's new regulation on PPE Fit. Here's an infographic that's available both in English and Spanish for folks to download and use. Also new is an infographic. You could use it as a poster on that contains a map of fatal falls, slips, and trips in 2023 by state. So most of you who are familiar with our website know we do have the fatality map on Stop Construction Falls, but this is a detailed information tool on just with the 2023 data in it. So you can take a look for that one. An additional new resources on head protection. And some people say, what does head protection have to do with falls? Well, a fall involving a head impact is a lot more dangerous than a fall without a head impact. And also, if a hard hat falls off during a fall, the risk of a very severe traumatic brain injury is increased. So we know a lot of the industry is going more towards the helmet approach. And as contractors are trying to determine if this is the right path for them and want help understanding what is the difference between different types of head protection, we've developed this selection guide, and we hope that people use it. We assembled an expert panel with 25 experts from academia, labor, government, manufacturing, and others. And they met in 2023 and 2024 and pulled together. We tried to use the method called the Delphi panel, which is a research method to extract the most information where there was consensus among that panel of experts. And as such, we use that exercise to create this resource based on these experts' opinions with kind of a step-by-step way to make decisions regarding what you're going to do about head protection and hopefully what you're going to do to protect heads during a fall. Another new resource on our website is we've got a few webinar recordings. Last year's falls webinars are up here. Again, just like this webinar we're in right now, we have them in English with simultaneous translation into Spanish. And the recordings are like that too. So people can go back to whichever language is most comfortable for them to review webinars. Our stand down materials on stopconstructionfalls.com is really everything that you might need. We have, as most folks know, that we have provided free hard hat stickers over the years. For the stand down, we move hundreds of thousands of these and fill requests from across the industry for these stickers. We also ship out hazard alert cards, printed pocket-sized hazard alert cards. By the way, this is the first year we actually asked for partial reimbursement for our shipping costs on this website, and we're really happy that we still were able to go through most of our supply so far of the hazard alert cards that we printed in preparation, that a lot of people have moved those out, though we didn't charge for any shipping or handling for the stickers themselves. So they're still available. We have some, and I'm told that if you get your order in today, we might even get them out to you by the stand down, even though we had asked folks to order by last Friday in order to get their materials by next week for the stand down. But we have, we're in a really good place with our shipping and our handling in the office. And we've got somebody who can ship things out the day after we get orders in. And hopefully, if you still want to place an order, we can get it out to you in time for Monday or Tuesday for the stand down. So if you did miss it and you don't want to order or you want to do something different, the logo that we adopted this year, the 2025 stand down, was designed by a new employee on our staff. And we were really excited to see her interpretation of our triangle that we've been using for a decade. And anyway, that art's up there on our website, and you can download it and do whatever you want with it. Use it however you want in association with next week's stand down. And we encourage you to do so. So the next slide is about a webinar that we're doing this Thursday at 3 p.m. And it's always a winner. Brian Rizzo, who you just heard from with OSHA, is going to be hosting it with a group of amazing experts on fall protection. So when you have really technical questions on newer types of fall protection, tune in for Thursday's webinar. It's titled Fall Protection for Leading Edge Work, Ask the Experts. We'd love for you to participate, ask your questions, and hopefully we'll get these experts to respond to all of them. We also have a leading edge tip sheet that's on stopconstructionfalls.com. It's up here on your screen right now. That was developed last year and is still up there and available for use around leading edges. Brian also mentioned that this year we're doing something new to expand what we call our Premier Partners. Is something we just started last year. And last year we asked really just associations to participate as Premier Partners. They don't participate at no cost, though. I mean, there's no financial cost, but they agree to do a number of things to help promote the stand down and promote participation in the stand down. So they've pledged to create new resources, potentially create videos, promote this webinar and other activities around the stand down, and also participate in the OSHA certificate program around participation in the stand down. So we're really excited. This year is the first year we asked individual contractors if they would like to participate as Premier Partners, and a good number of them did. So I think we'll probably be expanding our request for Premier Partners in 2026 based on the success we're having this year. And stay tuned on that one. But I really just wanted to thank everybody for helping to promote the stand down and obviously promote preventing falls in construction. As I mentioned, they have agreed to create resources for the stand down. And here are some examples of the free resources that they've provided to us. We don't have everything up on stopconstructionfalls.com yet, but we plan to put everything up that we can. We have to do some cursory evaluation of the resources before we'll post things, just in case we post something we don't know is there and there's something weird in it. So it takes a little bit of time to get things up. Some of the ones from last year that our partners produced are up on our website as well, and would really love it if you could use those for your stand downs as well. And I was going to mention the last thing and just kind of reiterate Brian's request that you sign up for a certificate of participation once you do a stand down event. And these certificates help us because most years we enter into a confidential agreement with OSHA where we analyze the data on those certificates to create information like you see on this slide, trying to track the number of workers reached, the types of construction or other non-construction as well that are participating in stand down events. And we post this information. It's completely transparent, of course, with no company names or anything like that. We are sworn to secrecy and destroy the data once we provide the evaluation report. But it helps us year over year to track how, as a nation, we're doing in this stand down, and all of our evaluation reports are up on our website. So with that, I wanted to say thank you, and at this point move on to our Q&A session, which Rosa is going to facilitate. So back to you, Rosa.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you, Brian, for your presentations and for your leadership for the stand down. It is great to be here today with you, and thank you so much to everyone online listening, and to those who submitted questions in advance. We are going to dig into those first, But if you have questions about today's presentation, about the stand down, about the Falls campaign, please be adding them to the Q&A box or the chat as we're going, and we will get to as many questions as we have time for today. So our first question is a data question. How many of these fatal falls are residential versus commercial construction?
Well, I'm glad we got this in advance because we were able to go to CPWR's data gurus and get some information on the breakdown and what they found based on the last available data, which is in 2023. The CFOI BLS data indicated that overall, 14 or about 15% of all fatal construction falls, slips, and trips happened in residential construction. And also, if you only look at the construction of building NAICS code, and for the, it's kind of hard to describe the NAICS codes, but construction is broken down by NAICS code, and the kind of large segment of construction covered by NAICS code, NAICS 236, that's the construction of buildings, NAICS, indicated that of all fatal falls, trips, and slips in NAICS code 236, construction of buildings, 70% were of residential construction contractors. So it depends on how you slice the data, but it's a good portion of those in construction of buildings, NAICS code.
Thanks so much, Chris. Our next question is from another participant who submitted in advance, who asked, like the New York City DOB or Department of Buildings, can we mandate all government agencies within the country? What is the process to mandate to have workers to get fall protection training?
Right, yeah, I'll take that one. So the New York City, and I'm guessing that's the Department of Buildings, and I understand they have some fairly strict rules up there in New York. While I'm not familiar with them intimately, I'll tell you that rule already exists within OSHA's standards. And OSHA provides the minimum standards. So there's nothing that prohibits an employer or an authority over the work to create stricter rules, but at a minimum, it has to meet our minimum standard. So regarding that training specifically, under the construction rules under 1926-21, this is the safety and education section. It applies generally, or provides the general requirement for construction work that the employer must train employees to recognize and avoid unsafe conditions through control or elimination of hazards that can cause harm. Now we'll go a little further with this and go directly into subpart M, which is in 1926-503, which talks specifically about the program elements for compliance for training for employees with regard to fall protection. And this will include how that training program should look, the certification of training that's necessary, and what may be required for recertifications.
Thanks so much, Brian. We also got a question from someone else who asked if one of y'all could please say something about general industry and preventing falls.
Yeah, we got a couple things for general industry, and I'll start with this. Gravity doesn't discriminate. So every industry working at heights could possibly have some exposure. And this idea that you plan, provide, and train when working at heights will help you get through that, and making the best choices about the type of equipment and how that training should look, and making sure employees know how to set it up, how to use it, and how to raise concerns if something's going south. Now, we also have the advantage of CPWR's data collection and the data analysis they provide that showed that in 2024, 10% of the stand downs were held in the non-construction sector, which is great. So there's no exclusion there. Every industry can participate in this, and that was 380 of those were non-construction. And 10% of the workers reached were non-construction sector, which is an even greater number, hitting nearly 42,000 workers that were non-construction. So we're happy to see that. We'd absolutely love to see more of it, but of course it is the national stand down to prevent falls in construction. But we don't want anybody getting hurt anywhere from heights.
Thanks so much, Brian. Our next question is, how do you handle first up, last down? What things should you list in your fall protection?
That's a great question, and I'll kind of I'll add some flavor to this one too. And you might start to hear this on repeat, but it's a great example of a place you should use plan, provide, and train. There's a lot of technology that has advanced over the years that make it extremely feasible to get a good anchor out before the work starts, and then build your fall protection as you go. In the chat right now, I'm going to put a link for everyone that's to Oregon OSHA that has a video of them discussing this exact topic that I thought might be helpful. And if I can, Rose, I saw another one pop up in the another question pop up in the chat that had to do with, can you recommend certain fall protection systems? And specifically for techs using ladders. So in this case, where it's the first man up, last man down, or use of ladders or anything else, OSHA would say we don't recommend any specific types of equipment. The idea is it's really a performance-based standards based on the needs of your work site. And there's a lot of opportunities to work with equipment manufacturers that really speak to this and use technology in a smart way. But it's really up to the employer and their competent person to decide what type of work they're doing, what the method is, and what the best way to perform that work is to keep those workers safe.
Thanks so much, Brian. I think I've got another one for you. Can you please elaborate on lanyard standards for boom lifts and scissor lifts?
This is always a fun question. Yeah, no. Because there's a lot of different information out there. And I'll tell you this, and from OSHA's standpoint, the first things first, you have to check with your manufacturer. If you're going to put equipment into place for your employees to use, you should understand what that equipment is, how it's meant to be used, and what its limits are. With that, where the standards come into play is OSHA does not require the lanyards and scissor lifts. The guardrail serves that purpose. Now, the boom lifts have an additional and unique hazard that deals with catapulting. So in riding in those things or operating them, there's a potential for you to be thrown out of it. So we need some sort of essentially seatbelt, like a restraint device that can be used in there. And the standard is clear that that's required to keep people in those. Now, with all that being said, again, the employer should go back to the manufacturer specification, figure out what the limits and use are, and also check for any local state plan OSHA rules that may apply, because there may be a stricter standard in different states depending on who's regulating you.
Thanks so much, Brian. I'm now going to pull some questions that we're getting from the chat and from the Q&A. Thanks to everybody who is submitting questions and asking questions. One of the questions we got is someone who asked, so for me to show that we participated in the stand down, do we need to take pictures showing a training of PPE or ladders, etc., and upload it to the website to get the certificate?
I mean, it's an OSHA certificate, but I know the answer is no. You know, you don't need to demonstrate what you did. It's an honor system. You're requesting a certificate and you get a printout of the certificate. The information that you put in helps us track participation, but you definitely don't have to submit proof that you participated, right?
Yeah, and I'll add to that, because it may have been when I mentioned what the premier partners are doing that may have made it sound like you needed to do more. So anybody who's participating in the stand down will go in, they'll register on a form, and it's text. You just fill it out with a couple of pieces of information. Now, if you want to do more and you want to be a premier partner, we're going to ask that you share our resources. You provide us with something that you've created that we can share with others. And you will also be able to do the certificate thing there as well. But that's where the doing more comes into play, is if you want to be a premier partner. And we could refer you to the website to see what that entails.
Great. Thanks so much, Chris and Brian. And I'm seeing more questions coming in the chat about the certificate. So just a reminder to folks that the certificate form itself is not currently live. So if you're not seeing it, it's because it's not yet available. And that my understanding is it'll be posted on May 5th. So if you're not seeing it, it's okay. It'll be there soon.
Sorry for the confusion on that. We were working as fast as we can to get that changed on our side.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Brian. So another question we received is, has there been a study conducted on how many employees who were subject to injury or death from falls had received training, whether it be from an end user or a competent person? This may show or not show how effective training programs can be.
Well, I can tell you what I think I know on that without looking it up. Part of the benefit of the NIOSH FACE program is because it really gets into the details of what happened around a particular fatality. And we have mined some of those FACE reports for exactly the type of information that you have. And we have FACE reports related to falls right up on stopconstructionfalls.com. Obviously, the CFOID data that we do analyze around falls doesn't have that granular amount of information in it because it's a database. So there's no way to actually know specifically within the CFOID data what happened in every case. So I don't think it's a universal, but anecdotally we know. I don't know, Brian, if you wanted to kind of respond the way OSHA investigates a fatality, because there's other data that goes outside of OSHA's.
Yeah, it's a really great question, and frankly, I'm not sure of necessarily a study, but I can give you a perspective on it, because there's a few ways we get out on site to find violative conditions. Now, we're not necessarily looking for causal mechanisms that would put out a report that you could use to say, like, was training a factor? Well, we can tell you that training was violated, and you can see that by going to OSHA.gov, and under topics and resources, there's a data tool that you'll be able to spin out anywhere that we've cited training. And I'll tell you, if I can go back to one of the slides that I put up with the top 10 violations in construction, 1926-503 for fall protection training, we've already hit 1,000 times, over 1,000 times this year. So whether it was through a complaint, through a referral, which means it could mean there is a severe injury or illness reported to us, or a fatality, or through our NEP, or we saw something line of sight, like some folks on the roof, and it fell under what we were able to open an inspection for, and went out and did an inspection. If we found a number of violations related to training, meaning those employees either did not demonstrate that, or the employer couldn't demonstrate that they were trained, and the employees couldn't demonstrate that the training was effective if they did have it. We've had over almost 700 serious violations, 6 of them being willful and 90 that were repeats. And again, on OSHA's website, OSHA.gov, and then under topics and resources, you'll find a data tool that can help you take it from that perspective. But as far as a report, I'm not aware of one that's specifically what you asked for.
Thanks, Chris and Brian. Another data question. Do you have stats on falls related to heat?
I know we do. And I was just looking for them on our website and I'm not finding them. And I don't think, I know Gavin West on our staff knows this and has those reports. So I don't have a good answer for the person who asked it, but I wanted to follow up. Maybe we can do it in the follow-up email or directly with the person who asked, because I think it's an important thing. I know that the studies I've seen do document that heat increases the likelihood of a traumatic injury happening on the job. I don't know if that translates directly to fall deaths or injuries of a different sort. So I think I think that's one that I think we need to research a little better and go ahead and get back to you on. Sorry, Rosa, I thought I had that answer.
Yeah, I'd have to dig some out as well. But since we're coming into the summer months and it's starting to get warm in here, I know when the sun hits this window, the heat goes real fast over this way. So I imagine it's having an even worse effect out in the field. But OSHA.gov/heat provides a lot of resources for employers to help understand and mitigate those risks as well. So don't forget to hydrate either.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Chris. We are coming up on the hour. Brian and Chris, would you all like to extend and take more questions, or shall we wrap up at the hour?
I think maybe one more question. I wanted to share something on NAICS codes because people were talking about that in the questions, and let me see. This is an image of our chart book. CPWR puts out a chart book every few years. We're working on the last edition, the 7th edition, I think, to the chart book. But this is on page 22 of the 6th edition, which is available on our website. That really breaks down the different NAICS codes. And when you look at the 2-digit NAICS code is 23 for construction. And then when there's a third number, it's 236 is the construction of buildings. And then if you look further, there's more detailed numbers that get into residential construction. So when I answered that it was 70% within the NAICS code, that was 236. That's what I meant. And construction of buildings means construction not just of residential type buildings or residential structures, but also of office buildings or, other types of buildings outside of home buildings. So that's where those numbers came from. And just to clarify, check out our chart book if you can. It's a really great resource.
Yeah, if I can add on to a couple of these other questions, because I think there's a couple of them that have a thread between them, and because I had to do with one of the questions is there graphics that break down fatalities by height, and I just when we think about that, whether it's the same level fall or fall from different levels or something like that, it really doesn't necessarily matter how hard you fall. It does matter the way you fall and what you land on. A lot of that matters, and Chris showed a slide that had to do with the rotational forces of a fall and impacting the head. And OSHA moved to a little more of an advanced helmet in recent years that helps with that type of fall and limiting the injury as opposed to a conventional hard hat. While the conventional hard hat is still absolutely within the standards, there's better technology out there to wear to help that same level fall. Now, whether it was off the first rung of a ladder or the 5th rung of a ladder or the 15th floor of a building, I can tell you of a lot of the falls that I've reviewed, it really does matter how the individual lands and what they land on. It's an interesting concept to think of what that graphic might look like and how that would help you, but that gravity doesn't forgive. So you have to be aware of that. And at least with same level falls, and a lot of construction sites will make sure that they have good and proper access, making sure that those ramps aren't divoted, folks aren't walking through mud. There's a good way to get to the site out of the ruts, so they're not spraining ankles, falling down, and the materials are out of the way. And that goes a lot further than just preventing the falls. It makes for a good, clean work site that people want to show up to and makes for more effective work. We've actually connected that to some of our work in mental health and construction and keeping good, safe workplaces. So I really appreciate those questions, and it was a little extension of the thread there, but I think it was important to connect those together.
No, I appreciate that, Brian. Because I see more questions I want to respond to, but don't worry, everybody. We'll send this stuff out. Somebody's asking for a printout of the chat window. We will definitely send out the resources that Jess is posting, including like this one, because you asked for it. We have it. It's
I'm sorry, I did not see that.
it's
Okay.
on our website. Obviously, it's not, I don't think this is 2023 data. I might be wrong. But it is kind of breaks things down so that, you can, the main point is we can still have fatalities at 1 foot, 6 foot falls to the same level. So it's not just a matter of being concerned at great heights. It's definitely, like Brian was saying, it's concerns of falls at the same level as well, housekeeping and everything else. And Rosa, I'll stop now so you can wrap up. I really appreciate you and everyone who joined us today.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you, Brian. And thanks to everybody who joined us and who is getting ready for their stand downs next week. We are so excited to hear about what you do through the certificate evaluation form, hear about how your events went. And we just appreciate you joining us today and all of your leadership for fall prevention. Jess is putting in the chat information about what we'll be sending out after. We'll send slides, data, resources, everything you need. And a reminder on that hard hat sticker ordering form, get your order in today if you haven't submitted an order yet. Thanks so much to everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.